Hello, everyone, and thank you for listening to the Treat Dogs Like Dogs podcast. This is episode 23. This is a special one for you. I actually had a very long and productive phone conversation with one of my mentees, Olivia. And this is going to be that podcast. It's going to be that entire conversation. There are going to be moments where it switches my audio from my phone to my Bluetooth in the vehicle and it cuts them out and changes the audio quality a little bit. Bear through it. It's edited so that way you can understand this episode, or at least our talking points within this episode, a lot easier. But that's the only thing to look out for. Other than that, enjoy, and here it is. My phone actually records the conversations that I have on it, and then it will just automatically delete it unless I just tell it to save longer or whatever. If you don't mind, I would love to take this conversation and just turn it into a straight podcast episode, because we went in depth on a lot of really good stuff.
No, go ahead. Do it. I give full permission.
Cool. Perfect. So, yeah, anyway, do you have any updates on your dogs? How are they doing?
I would say Natalia's gotten a little bit better, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, in terms of, going out and about to new places, it's getting to the point where she pretty much will start to generalize all the training we've done, and at that point I start rewarding her, and then it's suddenly, oh, I know what I'm doing then.
Yeah. Nice. That's pretty awesome.
I will say this, and I've noticed this is a pattern, and I'm not quite sure why she does this.
Mm-hmm.
Even when we go to new places or places we've been, right before we leave, there is always one person that makes her bark. And I'm like, why? I don't get it. And the only thing I can think of where last time she was doing that was because I was in Oregon, and the neighbor, who was always drunk, would be walking past the van, and she would get really, really hackles up about it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why is she do it's random. I don't know. I can't see a pattern. I don't know where the pattern is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, honestly, it could be a scent, right? So, for instance, alcohol is very strong. From further away, it's hard for us to smell it on another person, but I'm assuming a dog can, right? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can absolutely assume a dog can. And so maybe what the dog might be doing is smelling that same smell on other people.
That would make sense, because I took her to the outside of a Publix recently with my siblings, and we were right next to the liquor store door that Publix has, and there was a reason why I was kind of doing a lot of movement heel around it and getting her a little bit used to that, because I know she doesn't like the smell of that. So I was like, okay, let me go ahead and work with her a little bit, since I'm having the opportunity right here, right now. Why not? And she was fine until one person came out with a cart and an entire cart worth of alcohol.
Yep,
and that made her go bonkers.
Yep, there you go. That's probably what it is. Dogs are really good with associations. It's no different than scent training a dog to detect something for a disability, let's say seizure detection or something like that, to where body chemistry changes, they're picking up the scent or something, right? And then doing that. Now, imagine instead of doing that, it's reactivity. And the dog has now associated the smell of this thing makes me want to bark, and when I bark, that thing goes away. Right? And so they're going to increase that behavior because they got what they wanted out of it, and it's triggered by that scent.
Yeah. I would. The person that came out from Publix, he just kept walking like it was nothing. I was like, good. I was kind of happy he did that. But the one recently at a laundromat, the one that she went ballistic at, it wasn't even an old lady. It was a family. It was 2 kids and a mom. The moment she heard Natalia bark, she was like, oh, that's a dog, and ran out. And I'm like, what the?
Well, think about it. In Natalia's head, she's like, I did that. I made them leave. And on that last one, she did. She actually did. But, like, in general, if people just, like, walk by, even ignoring Natalia, Natalia's like, I did that. I made them fucking leave. Right? And so she's going to, it's something that she'll repeat, right? You know, unfortunately, the best way to stop that behavior is not allowing it to work anymore, right? And people are always going to be leaving regardless. If, you know, you're not going to tell somebody, it's like, nope, you got to stay here. Wait here, random stranger. My dog smells alcohol on you, and you have to stand here until my dog backs away. It's like, no, you're not going to do that. So the other way to do it is utilize punishment.
That's what I was kind of thinking of doing, because at that time she had, not with the Publix one. The Publix one, we only really had her harness on and her flexing, and I was like, okay, whatever. Yep. But the laundromat one, we had her e-collar on, and I sort of was thinking about maybe I should have shocked her for that, like, reaction, but at the same time, I don't know if that would have made it worse.
So, probably not, but there is the potential that you could make that single time worse, right? Now, the thing is, I mean, there's nothing wrong with testing the waters with it that one time, right? For instance, if she goes ballistic and you shock her with the e-collar and it made it worse, then you just don't do it again. Now it's a one-time thing. It's not a pattern. It's not routine, right? So it's just a one-off event, right? It doesn't mean that doesn't mean that event is now going to create an association, because it's not a pattern, right? There's something. It's no different than a dog running through a field gets stung by a bee one time, right? Is that dog going to stop going through that field? No, because it's not a pattern. It's not repetitive. So if you try it that one time and it worked, then you know, okay, it worked. Right?
Yes.
So.
Patrick.
Yo, I missed like 6 phone calls from you. Are you okay?
Depends. I think I'm still in a little bit of shock right now, but... So Risa tried to bite me.
Risa did?
Yes. Oh my god.
Wild. No, go Joe up. Come on, move. Go. Good. Lay down.
So, I'm not... Okay, like, I sort of know what triggered it, what didn't. Long story short, she had something that she wasn't supposed to have.
Okay. Because
my grandparents, being my grandparents, do not give 2 flying fucks about Risa. It's one of those situations where I'm the one who's knowing what to do. I'm the one trying to do all the training because she needs it. And then everybody else in the house is not on the same page. It is frustrating.
Okay, well, let me tell you this. Both Nezzy and Gojo have tried to bite me before from me taking away something from them. Both of them have done it. They're both fine. Any person out here that sits there and tells you that their dog has never, ever once tried to bite them for taking something from their dog, they're a liar. Just to let you know. They are not telling the truth if they try to say that shit. She took something from her dog, and her dog tried to bite her. And I'm like, yeah, mine have tried to bite me before from taking shit from them. Yeah. You know, like, every single person in the world, their dogs have tried that at some point. It's not the end of the world.
Well, after that, I ended up just putting her in the crate, and she's kind of going to stay there for the night, because...
Yeah, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, the thing... Patrick, today has been very stressful with the dog. Mostly Risa, because Natalia she's not usually that bad of a dog.
Mm-hmm. So at this point in the podcast, I had lost Olivia's audio because I switched it over to my vehicle's Bluetooth audio. And yeah, it got kind of funky for a second there. So I'm going to kind of give some cuts in here to give the best commentary on my end that I have towards different things. And then it does cut back to normal audio a few times throughout here. So bear with us, enjoy technical difficulties, but I can't just repeat the same conversation again. It was nice, it was good, it was fluid. But yeah, enjoy. Oh, okay. Is that better? Yeah, I was talking quietly. You're on my Bluetooth in the vehicle. Um, there's the address. I'm heading to another client. I know. My life, right? I don't know when enough is enough. This is pet sitting, 3 dogs, right? Now, the thing is this guy, he owns his own business. He does very well for himself, but he got sick and tired of anybody that he hired. He would have to like call in the morning to wake them up to actually go and take care of his dogs. He was tired of not being able to rely on people. So he's willing to spend the extra money for me to come way out to him out at the beaches just to let his dogs out, feed them, exercise them, do whatever, right? Hang out with them. Oh, dude, it's sick. Okay, so he has a Japanese Akita that's a tripod. He has a Jack Russell Terrier who is a wild man. I let them both out back together because although the tripod Akita can be a little bit of a punk, Lulu, right? She can be, dude. She'll even with 3 legs, she could kill a dog in a heartbeat. Like she is not to be fucked with, right? Now the thing about it is this Jack Russell is a Jack fucking Russell. So even if she wanted to tear into that Jack Russell will run circles around her, right? So so they are fine. They get along fine anyway, but they're good. So we just I just let them out back together, and then the other dog, Wheezy, is the chocolate lab. I love Wheezy. I actually have a couple videos of me working with Wheezy, training Wheezy. But yeah, so Wheezy's amazing. And I go out front with Wheezy. Wheezy is completely off leash trained. So we go out front and where there are no fences or anything, and it's not even a huge yard. And we play tug, we throw balls around, we practice some obedience while doing it, and so on and so forth. So the dogs out back run around, fuck around with toys and stuff, and then Wheezy out front, I have to exercise Wheezy. So it is fun. It's actually it's one of the better ones I like to do. I would own an Akita if I didn't have other dogs. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's my biggest thing about having an Akita is I would just have to have no other dogs and just that one. But I like to have a multi-dog household, right? I like 2 dogs. 2 dogs, 3 is tops. Like if two, two is pretty much the limit I personally like for myself because it's reasonable. I don't have to spend way too much extra time training. I can enjoy them. There's not too much just nonsense. Once you start getting to 3 dogs or more, that's when it starts to become a little bit more work, all right? And I like to enjoy my dogs, not feel like I'm always working. Well, the thing is like when you start getting a lot of dogs, you end up with a lot of welfare stuff that's being broken, then you end up with behavioral problems, then you have to start creating and rotating and stuff like that. You love your dogs, you're never going to rehome them and stuff, and then your life is now overwhelmed, and every part of your life is surrounded by taking care of those dogs, and it's exhausting and so on, right? Um, like a lot of people don't realize how enjoyable of an experience it is to actually own dogs because they put themselves in these situations, right? When if they just, finally just got rid of the dog. I mean, it sounds bad, but if they finally just got rid of the headache, really, the stress is really what I'm talking about. Like they got rid of the stress. Um, they could really truly see how enjoyable it is to be a dog owner. Like, I rehome Natsu, right? And I'm glad I did. Yeah, it's just Gojo and Natsuko, and I'm glad it's just them two. Like, they do extremely well together. They have a very, very awesome play style together. They work very well as a dynamic. Their personalities, because I raised them both from young puppies, they are very well environmentally socialized and exposed. They have their rules and boundaries and stuff. There are no behavioral issues that I'm worried about. Like, it's great. It's good shit, right? And Natsu's dynamic did digress some of the shit we were doing with the other dogs because I was too focused on Natsu. I had to be, and it also made things very stressful. I had to do a lot of crating, and I had to manage things a lot heavier, and it's not my version of fun, right? Can I do it? Sure. Was I doing a good thing for the dog? Yeah, absolutely. Did I want to? No, not particularly, and that's completely okay. So yeah, you got rehome. He'll do fine. And even with play and stuff, like even though I got him over his behavioral issues, he's not fully over them, right? Because what happens is, like, even with play, I could only have my dogs and Natsu all out for 10 minutes at a time because 10 minutes was Natsu's peak, where at that point he may get overstimulated and start a fight. And I don't want to risk that, so we figured out 10 minutes is the limit of his play with other dogs, right? And but unfortunately, if I was outside with the other dogs, Natsu would be inside, throwing a fit. I want to be outside, fear of missing out, FOMO. I want to be outside, yap, 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 scratch, scratch, scratch at the crate, yap, yap, and then my wife is like, I can't stand it. So at that point, now I have to, instead of being outside an hour here and an hour there with my dogs to run their asses off and stuff and get them tired, I basically have to spend all day doing 10-minute stints just to wear my dogs out. And it was just a lot. So, yeah, it has relaxed us a hell of a lot being able to get back down to these two. And again, I'm okay with 3 dogs. It's not my thing. It's not my thing. I like 2 dogs. And 2 dogs, like, if you're gonna lay in the bed, 2 dogs is perfect. 3 dogs becomes a clusterfuck. And even sitting on the couch, 2 dogs is perfect. The 3rd dog, now you're gonna have people or not people with the dogs competing for who gets next to you, who gets lap time, and so on. So no. And of course, obviously, we can like today. I had Gojo laying up on bed with me, and Nezzy wanted to get up there. I'm like, no, you can sit down on the ground, and you can wait your fucking turn, right? Off, down, right? And she's fine with that, but she's just, staring at me. She's like, I want my turn, right? Yada, yada. But it's a lot easier to manage than if I had 2 dogs that I had to put on the ground while they're both like, I want to get up, it's just, for me, it's easier. It's easier. It makes it more enjoyable. I like to enjoy my dogs, not feel like I'm working. So yeah, there's that. But back to your thing, though, your dog bit at you. What were you grabbing that made the dog react?
She had explained to me that there was some chip bags that were left laying on the floor. Unfortunately, with her grandparents' age and their mental health, they do forget that things are left around. So the dog got one of the bags, and it was, to the dog, a extremely high-level resource.
So this is where it goes into the silent training that I like to talk about, right? A lot of my training that I do is very quiet when it comes to decreasing behaviors, because I'm not trying to always use verbal commands to tell a dog to stop it, leave it, back up, whatever, right? Down, whatever it is, right? I don't want to have to constantly be doing that. I want the dog to just understand that part of this training stuff, or not part of this training stuff, part of life, is not fun, and it just shouldn't want to do the things, right? And so in order to do that, I'm very quiet, and I have an e-collar on the dog, and I just, one second, I'm driving, so I'm just making sure I'm in the right lane. Okay, so basically from there, what I do is I just kind of wait around, and I watch the dog. And then when the dog is doing the thing that for instance, going and picking up the random objects on the ground to eat or whatever, the moment they go and grab that object, bam, not even small, a very high, intense shock. Make it aversive enough to where the dog's like, fuck that, don't want to do that again, right? Here's an example, right? A dog trainer that I know, he had a dog that was just eating soil out of a potted plant, right? And And so what he did, it wasn't his dog. It was a client's dog. And so what he did was he set up I lied. It was his dog. It actually was his own dog, and it just wouldn't stop eating soil out of the plant. If they're around, it's fine, but the moment they leave the room, the dog just takes a chunk of soil out of the plant. The thing about it is, soil could potentially have chemicals in it, right? Especially potted plants inside your house, right? It's dangerous. So what he did was he FaceTimed himself or Facebook videoed or whatever it was to where he can have one device, like a tablet, watching while he's looking from another room on his phone. And the moment the dog went in to go get that potted plant, zap. And it only took one time of a very intense shock, a lot higher than the dog normally would get shocked at, for the dog to say, "I'm never doing that again." Right? So you may benefit from that, like setting up a device or something to where you can watch from another room and just kind of just wait around, and then the moment the dog does the thing, bam, no. And now instead of the dog being aware that you're around paying attention and that's why it's not doing it, instead it's not doing it because it didn't like doing it. Does that make sense? Yeah, so, and that's the thing about dogs. Like, I actually just, right before I called you back, I saw somebody on TikTok commented on something, saying that it was during the last, like 4 days ago or wherever, people were going at me for using any color on my husky, right? Yada, yada. And there was like those 200 plus comments and so on. Somebody recently commented saying that if coming from somebody that's okay with aversives, I'm wrong. They're like, you're wrong. Science also disagrees with you, and there's nothing that proves that aversives benefit a dog, right? And I'm just like, actually, that's factually incorrect. Modern science doesn't agree, because modern science is the bodies that are going to do these experiments would never ever approve an aversive-based experiment for dogs, ever, and it's because of the quote-unquote welfare of the animals, which is fine, right? On top of that, modern science is in a very controlled laboratory environment. That's not reality for animals, right? If we want to actually see older scientific studies where they didn't give a shit at the time about if they were hurting an animal or not, they prove time and time again that aversives do create behavioral changes. Now, if we're talking about welfare of an animal, it's very subjective. Yeah, no, you're good. No, you're fine. So if we look at the welfare needs of the dog, it's kind of subjective on what we're looking at, right? Somebody could be looking at the present, right now, welfare of the dog. Yes, it's stressful. Yes, it creates fear sometimes, and so on, right? Yeah, that's not good. But that's temporary in the now. If we look at longevity, the long-term welfare of the dog, are we reducing unwanted behaviors that could potentially save the animal's life? Are we doing things that are going to prevent the animal from injuring or hurting other animals or itself? In that case, then I think that the temporary welfare needs of the dog being reduced temporarily right now is not superseding the longevity of that dog, right? So that's subjective. And then on top of that, if we want to say that aversives don't benefit a dog, well, we don't have to prove it. The world around us, the environment proves it all the time. The environment gives aversives to all animals all the time, and that's what teaches animals how to survive the world and the environments around them, right? So with that said, I can use a controlled aversive, or I could let the environment do it for me, and the environment is not going to be that friendly, right? Here's an example that actually relates directly to your situation. Bag of chips. The dog wants to get in the bag of chips, right? We don't think that's dangerous, in general, like too bad. It's not too bad. My father, this is a true story. My father, about 10 years ago, roughly, a little more, about 12 years ago. He texted me one time and stuff, and I asked him how the dogs are, and he said his dog Susie passed away. I'm like, oh God, how? Well, he left a bag of Doritos sitting on his desk. She got up in the chair. She's a little beagle. Got up in the chair, got into the bag of chips, and suffocated inside the bag. The environment is not friendly. Shit can happen. I much prefer shocking my dog to make them not want to get that bag of chips than my dog suffocating inside that bag of chips, right? I mean, that's a no fucking brainer. So yeah, and that's basically my rant right there to explain why you should not be feeling horrible for shocking the shit out of your dog from another room to prevent them from ever wanting to do that shit again. And some level of fear is extremely healthy for animals and humans, right? Are you, as a human, are you gonna walk if you see a cliff edge? Are you just gonna walk off the side? Why not? Because it's fucking terrifying. You know what's gonna fucking happen, right? Are you gonna look at a hot burner in your kitchen and just shove your hand on it? No. Why? Because you know the outcome and you're afraid of what will fucking happen when you do. Some fear is healthy. Some fear is extremely healthy. So, I mean, if you make the dog fearful of fucking bags of chips, okay, sure. But then again, of course, dogs aren't humans. We're more complex in our thought process. But when it comes to something that's similar, is maybe you touched the hot burner one time when you were little, right? And maybe you were terrified of hot burners for a little while. But after you're around it enough times, you don't touch it at all, and you realize, oh, it's not that bad as long as I don't touch it. Guess what? I don't think you're afraid of hot burners anymore. You just know not to fucking touch it, right? The same thing applies to dogs. That's why you can create a bit of fear. Just like Gojo with the chicken situation. Yeah, he was afraid to go near them, and he was highly stressed. He showed all the signals of it. Everything from like tail tuck, pinned ears, whale eyes, lick lipping, yawns, all the things you can think of. He showed, a little bit of crouched posture. He showed it, right? In the moment at the time, yeah. And for the next week, yeah, he was terrified of the chicken run. He was. But after enough times of not getting shocked and still being in his space, he's no longer afraid of the chicken run, but instead he just ignores it because it's not doing anything to him anymore as long as he doesn't go to it. Yeah, it's the same thing. Same fucking shit. So even if you shocked your dog became terrified of chip bags, that's fine, because then your dog will eventually be more or less neutral around them and just be in the fear or whatever that's instilled is when the dog goes up to the chip bag and tries to eat it. Like it should be afraid to do that shit. I don't think people do enough training with the little nuances inside their houses. For instance, trash cans, right? My dogs have never once gotten into the trash. I can leave for the entire day, stinky everything inside the trash can. I can leave old meat and stuff that we cooked that day inside there or whatever with the lid completely open. My dogs won't fucking touch it, right? And I have a fucking Catahoula hound. They won't fucking touch it because I made sure that the moment that they thought it was a smart idea to try to get in the trash, oh, no, we're doing training and I'm going to make you not want to. Because there's things in that trash that can kill my dogs. That's how I look at it. If it's something that's dangerous to my animal, that can kill my animal, then I'm going to do what I need to do to make sure my animal does not want to do that thing. It depends, right? It depends. That is one of those things. If you're going to use an e-collar for punishment for bolting out of the door, and you're trying to use it as a fail-safe for recall, what I recommend doing ahead of time, right, is putting a long line on the dog, allowing the dog to bolt out the door, do the shock, and then use that long line to reel the dog back in, so that way the dog starts understanding that when that happens, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do to get the pressure to go away, right? So that way the dog understands this means recall, right? If you don't do that, then you're risking that the shock's going to just make the dog keep going in another direction because they're fucking frantic and fearful, and they're just like, oh shit, I don't know what to do. That fucking sucked. I'm going to run. I'm going to run and panic, right? You don't want that. Another thing about it too is be careful, right? Be careful about how you use it when it comes to door etiquette, right? And the reason why is here's a good example. Those two older beagles that were fearful of the world, right? That I trained, got them fucking a-okay. One thing that was going on with them is they were afraid to go outside, right? Completely afraid to go outside. They wouldn't go, right? The reason why though is because the owner had e-collars on them, and she had the invisible line at the door. And so anytime the dogs went to go bolt out the door or anything, when they got too close to it, they got shocked. And then instead of realizing that the pattern was them running out the door, they associated the outside was the thing that they should be afraid of. Right? So you don't want to gamble that. So if you are going to use the e-collar for outdoor bolting type stuff, first, condition the dog to understand that it means recall. Secondly, if it happens, then after it happens and you recall the dog, let's say you have to shock the dog, let's say you do it for punishment, the dog doesn't listen, and you use it for negative reinforcement, the dog listens. Pretty immediately after that, put a leash on the dog, take the dog outside and do a little bit of like little sit treats type stuff, little fun training session where the dog just gets rewarded and stuff while being outside, so the dog realizes that it's not outside that they should be afraid of. Right. Yeah, you want to kind of follow it up so that way they don't create that association. And that's the thing about it. That's where these little nuances come in, right? When you're thinking about training dogs, Olivia, and you're doing things, what I like to do is I always love to ask myself, if I do this, what are all the things my dog could assume I'm trying to communicate, right? And if it's gonna be multiple things that could potentially become the issue, like for instance, bolting out the door. Oh, the dog assumes that it's because it bolted out the door. Great, that's what I wanted. Or the dog assumes that it should be afraid of outside. Okay, that's not what I wanted. Or the dog assumes that that the door is scary, right? And you can come up with all these scenarios. If you come up with a lot of scenarios, then you know that you need to now take extra steps to make sure that you communicate exactly what you want to the dog, right? And that's why, again, the conditioning with the recall is going to be important there. And that's also why right afterwards, going outside with the dog with a leash on and then doing a little bit of just some sits and treats and shit and having some fun out there really kind of helps increase the likelihood the dog's not going to associate outside with scary, things like that. So there may be extra steps you have to take just to ensure that the association is going to be appropriate. And that's especially when it comes to, that's the biggest thing I think people get wrong when it comes to aversives. Because when it comes to positive reinforcement training, you're using a lot of things like treats, toys, praise, games, and all this shit, right? Of course you can create wrong association, sure, but it's not the end of the fucking world, right? It's not the end of the world. It's basically you just made the dog more excited for something that maybe the dog shouldn't be excited for. For instance, my dog, I accidentally made my dog excited to go meet people. So now my dog pulls a little bit when we're on the leash because they want to go meet people. Easy fix, right? We can fix that very quickly. Now, when it comes to aversives, though, the thing that people get wrong is all these little nuances where the dog can now create those superstitious associations. The dogs can, just all these things we can fuck up just by not looking at all the little tiny nuances where the dog could associate the wrong things together, and that's where people get it wrong. And so they don't take those extra steps, those little extra processes to make sure that we are 100% communicating exactly what we want to communicate to the dog with the aversive tool. So, I mean, of course, you can absolutely, without knowing all those little things and stuff, or even thinking about it, sure, you can still use the tools to train a dog. But when you see those people that are like the top trainers in the fucking world when it comes to use of e-collars, right? Like, they're fucking good. It's because they are taking those extra steps. It's because they are looking at every single thing, opposed to just, oh, my dog ran, I'm going to shock it real quick. Yeah, and sometimes, and I know that you talk to other people too, not just me and stuff, which is great. I applaud you for that. Like, I prefer, even if somebody comes up to me to ask me for stuff that I'm knowledgeable on, go to somebody else and ask them, see what their opinion is, and then make your best judgment on what you should do based on your situation. I said it on a fucking live the other day, so, like, I thought it was pretty funny. So that podcast episode where the R Plus Brigade came after me, like, last year at some point, right?
Yeah.
The main perpetrator in that was Ronnie Lejeune, right? Right? And now the thing about it is, and what I said on live the other day and stuff, is, like, I have a lot of people I don't fucking like in the dog community, right? Does that mean they're bad trainers? Absolutely not. I just don't like them as a person, right? And I actually did mention Ronnie's name. I said, Ronnie Lejeune, I despise her as a human being. Is she a good dog trainer? Absolutely. She is fucking phenomenal. She, when it comes to the positive only reinforcement training and the shit she can do, is beyond believable. Like, she is so goddamn good. I'm like, I absolutely enjoy her style of training. She knows exactly what she's doing. She knows what she's talking about. But I just don't fucking like her. Right? Like, just like Karen Pryor, right? Rest in peace. But, she didn't revolutionize. She helped revolutionize the clicker training. And she really promoted the fuck out of it, right? And really, really got a lot of dog trainers in the world, even up to date, to understand on a better level how classical conditioning works and how you can use it to create a reward marker to make a better and more consistent training process, right? Love it. I don't fucking like her as a person. Never did. Right? It's kind of like Harry Potter, man. I love the fucking Harry Potter books. I love the works. I love the world that was created. The author sucks. Right? It's the same thing. Same fucking thing, right? And I'll even read books like shit. I checked out 2 of Zach George books from the library like a month and a half ago so I can read them. Why would I do that? Well, first off, they're free to check out at the library. I'm not spending money on that guy, but like, the thing is, he's been around long enough that maybe I might be able to get a couple new nuggets of information out of him. Even if I disagree with 99% of the shit he says, like, I might be able to get something useful out of it. And that's fine, right? So that's like my biggest take on other dog trainers and stuff too, is like, yeah, like, a lot of the people that, like, I truly wish sometimes, like, some of these really good dog trainers that I don't like would actually have a fucking conversation with me, because even if I don't like them, I would still love to have a conversation. And then even if we disagree on most things, I can still learn and they can still learn. We can still communicate, but they won't do it. And they assume that I'm automatically going to be a piece of shit to them, but that's only because I'm going to match their energy, because they're going to call me a compulsion trainer and yada yada. It's like, okay, well, you suck dick. So
it's wild. It really is. I mean, and the thing is like, I mean, that was very gross exaggeration of what I would do. I wouldn't tell them that they suck dick. What I would do is I would have a very long debate with them, and then I would shove their foot in their own mouth as many times as I can to make them look stupid on live. Like, that's exactly what I would do, because I'm petty. Ronnie, I think the kicker with me and her and stuff, we went back and forth for weeks on, like, making videos about each other and commenting and stuff. Eventually, her and her friends brigaded one of my lives, and they came up and they wanted to try to get some gotchas on me, right? And by the end of it and stuff, she
made me go down a list of different things on why I would use aversives, punishments, and stuff. So, like, what do I consider dangerous behavior? So I started going down the list. She's like, whoa, let's stop. Let's go to the first thing. You said lunging and biting through a chain link fence. I said, no, not a chain link fence. I'm like, if you actually go and look at my pinned videos, you know exactly the dog I'm talking about. She's like, I don't have the energy, time, or even want to look at any of your content. I'm like, and that's the fucking problem. You already made assumptions about me and you refuse to even figure out who I am. I'm like, so I have nothing else to say to you. You know, like, you just lost any credibility you had in what you were claiming I am. You lost every single bit of it by telling the world that you have yet to look at a single one of my videos. And you're saying all this stuff about me. Right? And I find that ridiculous and gross. If you're going to go and talk shit about somebody, at least know who you're talking about. You know, at least do your due diligence. You could have looked at all my videos, or at least some of them, and then say, okay, I know more about you and my opinion still stands. Okay, fair. But at least you looked. At least you tried to figure it out first before going around saying shit. You know, like, that's all. You know, go ahead, say anything you want about my training, but at least you do your due diligence. I'm going to mute for a second. It's going to be loud for a split second. But yeah, so any other dog training questions? Anything weird that you've seen lately? Even stuff that you've seen online where you're not sure about?
I'm trying to see. So far, I haven't seen anything online except for, like, a really annoying, like, force-free plus trainer just being obnoxious about aversives today.
It's gonna happen, right? I think one of the funniest things I've ever seen was seeing somebody post a bunch of videos about, aversives and how bad they are and it's abuse and this, that, and the other, right? And then when I went to go look at their content, every single one of their dog training videos was them training with a stuffed animal.
Oh my god.
Trying to show this is what you would do. It's like no, I mean, show us with a real dog. If what you're doing is working, show us with a real dog of you doing it. Like,
exactly, what the fuck?
it blew my mind. I'm like, what? What?
I cannot believe that.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I'll say that.
Oh, shit, Patrick. I did not tell you. When we went to the laundromat the other day, besides the barking that Natalia did, like that one person, I kid you not, the entire time, I had Natalia practicing off-leash because for the most part, there wasn't really anybody there for most of it. When there was people, though, I did put a leash on her just to be safe, because, like, I know that some people might not be most comfortable with a random, like, off-leash dog, even if it's in control or not. Some people are kind of weird like that. But she, like, I was on a live. I literally started my own live just because. I was bored, and the entire time, she stuck to my heel without me even cueing her or anything. And she just stayed up my ass, and I'm like, oh, little dog.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's really cool.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I've been doing really well with how I've been, like, I don't host my own lives anymore for the most part, but I do get on.
I know, I'm so sad.
But I do get on a lot of other people's lives, and I enjoy it because I don't have to feel like I have to stay up forever to host a live. So it's nice. I can leave when I want to. But whenever I go up and stuff, a big thing that I've been doing lately is, instead of just, being stuck in my head of like, no, that's wrong, this is how you should be doing it, I've been doing a lot better with, explaining. It's like, look, if I disagree with you, doesn't make you wrong. Right? I don't know your dog. I'm speaking in generalities because your dog could be extremely different than other dogs I meet, right? I don't know your dog's personality. I don't know your handling skills. I don't know the behaviors. I don't know what the drives and motivators are for the dog. So, and that's one thing I've been doing a lot lately. Like, for instance, today, there was a bunch of people going at a service dog owner because their service dog was their service dog in training, not as a full-fledged service dog, is a rescue, like Papillon type dog, to alert for seizures. But the disorder they have is not like a body chemistry seizure thing. It's a psychological, mental type disorder that causes the neural pathways to not connect, which causes the seizures, right? But the problem with this dog, though, is this dog is almost 2 years old, still has reactive behaviors towards other dogs on a leash, as in lunging, pulling, and barking. The dog also barks at the door, the dog barks at other dogs, and so on, and it's supposed to bark to alert, right? And the problem with it is the ethics behind what they're doing with the dog, like going into restaurants with the dog and stuff. Now, in my small area, there's no other service dogs. I'm like, you don't know that. You don't know that. And just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean they don't exist. And by you bringing your dog into these spaces, just because yours is a service dog in training, right? Now you're putting other people's dogs in risk of being washes because your dog decided to, be it what it is right now. I'm like, you need to pull that dog from being in training, treat it like just a pet dog that has reactivity issues, get through those reactivity issues, and then turn it into a service dog in training. Or it may never get through the reactivity issues, and then you have a pet dog. True. But it was a big thing and stuff. But what I did by the end of it, as people were just laying into them, and she was defending herself like crazy, I eventually was just like, look. I think at this point is beating a dead horse, because everybody here is talking about generalities, and they are talking about individuality of their dog. We don't know their dog. We don't really know what they're explaining. Like, maybe, what the person is calling lunging, barking, and pulling on the leash is not as severe as what we're assuming it is, right? Because a lot of people, like, for instance, it could just be slightly tugging at the leash, not even hard, maybe whining and not barking heavily, and the lunging maybe just a freaking small dog, like, jump around in circle and shit like that, and that's what they assume it is, right? We don't know. We don't know, right? So in general, like, we can do the generality thing and bash somebody all we want, but in the long run, I don't know their dog. So what can I actually say?
That's true. That's true.
So I've been trying to do things on a different level, so that way I can just really focus on educating more so than always being the argumentative thing. I mean, I'm obviously still going to have controversy, because any chance I get to show me shocking a dog, I'm going to put it on my TikTok. But that's specifically because it opens up the table for me to educate, especially when there's a lot of people that are going to hate on it and not know what they're looking at. It's like, okay, cool, let's talk about it. More or less, I think I know what you're talking about.
Sorry,
do a quick explanation again for me, real fast.
Okay, so like, let's say if the dog is, this would be so much easier if you had fucking FaceTime, but I don't think you have iPhone, so that's not gonna work.
Just explain what you kind of just did. Explain what you kind of just did, because I'm not going to lie, I kind of zoned for a split second there, so I kind of got half of it, and that might be why I don't understand what you're saying.
Okay, so like, let's say I'm walking Natalia down in the neighborhood or whatever, and on the other side of the road, the dogs are, there's dogs passing by us. She ignores them just fine, but let's say they're off the sidewalk and they get a little bit closer than just being on the sidewalk, on the other side of the sidewalk. Then she starts kind of like, she'll try to fixate, but she doesn't really at the same time. Like, if I just keep moving, she keeps moving. Mm-hmm. But she'll still, like, deviate off of a heel, and, like, without pulling. Does that make sense? Well, she doesn't yank, but I see her getting off of heel. Mm-hmm. Getting, like, deviating a little bit as far as she can.
Okay.
Yeah, so
So,
I don't know. That's
so
where I feel like I need
she's
to.
not being reactive and stuff. What it is it's just there's something there that's interesting, some stimuli or whatever, and she lost focus of what she was doing. That's all it sounds like. She just lost focus.
Probably.
You know, if she's not showing any reactive behaviors, and all it is like another animal got a little closer than normal, and then she's just looking at that like, what's going on here, and then starts getting off of a hill. It's just losing focus is all. Like you can work on a lot more engagement, and so that way the dog does focus more. Or the moments that you see another dog coming up and it's about to happen and stuff, then start popping out some treats every time, you know, she looks at you, pop a treat during those moments. So she starts associating, oh, when the dogs get close or whatever, that's the moment I need to start really focusing and engaging, so that way I can get these rewards.
Okay.
You know, you can pair those up if you want to. Another thing you can do with the engagement is up the reward level, right? Whatever treats or whatever you're doing, make it even more intense. Like maybe some, like, if she's not allergic to chicken, maybe some cooked chicken or some steak jerky or something, right? Something that's just really intensely good, so that way it just ups that want, right? Because again, everything's about motivations, and if we want them to have really good engagement, then we need to give them a really good motivation to have it.
True. We do have like these little like chicken jerky single ingredient stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I could always just grab one or two and just make them into smaller pieces that way.
Mm-hmm. You could.
I normally just use her kibble, and she will work through almost any distraction for her kibble.
Yeah, well, maybe do something more than kibble for this, because especially if it's something that you really want to work on and she's losing focus, then let's make the focus better by raising that. I guess, I mean, even if she does great on kibble for the treats, you know, I do that all the time with my dogs, but like sometimes it's like this not high level enough. We need something even more, right?
Yeah. I'm going to have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that works. Instead of letting Natalia, like, go at the end of the leash, because I let her do it to the squirrels every once in a while as like a reward, like, hey, you've actually been really good this entire like walk, so mm-hmm. like, okay, here's the reward.
Yeah.
I pulled out her like her tug what's it called? It's like a tug pillow thing. And we were just playing with it until we walked past them, and then once we walked past them, that was her reward. She got it, she won, and she was so happy about it, and she just completely ignored the damn birds.
Yeah. Again, motivations versus motivator, right? Like you have used that toy to create drive for that toy, right? And so now she's highly motivated to play with that toy, and it supersedes her want to chase a bird. So that's awesome.
I've noticed she's really highly strung. Like, she's very sensitive to stimuli, and she can just kind of like go from 0 to 100 or 100 to 0 like quickly.
Yeah, I mean, if you see that the toy is what's motivating for her, then use the toy. Like, go and watch some sport dogs, right? And what you'll notice a lot of the time, the handlers are going to have some kind of toy, right? And if you notice that engagement, that up close engagement, staring right up at them, is because they have that toy.
True.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something I've noticed too. Is when it comes to like how I train my dogs and what I do with my dogs is vastly different than how I train and what I do and what I tell my clients.
Also true.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I'm a hypocrite half the time. Not gonna lie, I'm a hypocrite. I am. Don't take your dogs to dog parks. It's the worst. It's doggy fight club, you know, yada yada. I take my dogs to dog parks.
See, if I do take her, it's just to be on the outside. I don't take them inside.
No, I'll take them inside. I will absolutely take them inside, but here's the difference. I know what dog parks are the clean ones. I know what to look for even before going into the dog park. I scan the people and the other dogs. I make sure that there's not a shitload of dogs there. There's just a minimal, like 2-3 tops. And I am making sure that the people are engaged with their dogs, not on their phones, just chit-chatting and sitting around. I make sure that when their dogs are being rowdy and shit, that when they play, they're not being dickheads and stuff like that. So I'm paying attention to a lot of things because I'm around a lot of dogs, so I know what to look for. The reason why I tell other people not to is because they're not me. They don't have the experience I have. They don't have, there's so many different things, right? And so, it's hard for me to tell other people that, yeah, go ahead, do it and stuff, and expect them to know all the little tiny minute details to look for, right? So, yeah.
True.
Yeah, I'll take my dogs, but I have very strict guidelines that I go to, and there's plenty of times we've gotten to a dog park, walked out there, and decided, no, we're just going to go walk on a leash over this way. We're not even going to go in, but I'm still going to let my dogs have some fun while we're out here. Yeah, there's that. I tell people all the time, your dogs don't need to meet other people. Your dogs don't need to meet other dogs. That's a good way to make things harder on yourselves. People don't do things right. Dogs don't do things right. Yada, yada. I tell people all the time, your dogs don't need friends. They got you, right? My dogs absolutely get to meet people. My dogs absolutely get to meet other dogs, right? But I also, again, know how to control the situation, know exactly who to say yes to and who to say no to. And if somebody's coming up to my dog, I tell them word for word exactly what I want them to do to meet my dog. And if they don't, then I just tell them back the fuck off, go away. I don't want you meeting my dog anymore because you're not listening, right? And I have no problem doing that, right? So again, yes, I'm a hypocrite, but that's because other people are not me. And unfortunately, I'm speaking to people that don't, and it's okay. They don't have the experience I have. They're not professionals in the industry. And that's fine. That's fair. That's why they hire people like me.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yep.
I can't say much about it. I don't know. I try not to be as much of a hypocrite, but that doesn't mean I'm never not. It's just not around dogs. Oh, fun. I can be a hypocrite anywhere else. Just not dogs.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get it. No, it's better safe that way anyway for the most part, like just to keep it consistent and not be a hypocrite and just do the things that you preach. For sure. Absolutely. I just know that I'm able to get away with it. So I'm going to. Right? Just like,
As long as their dogs are safe, who cares?
I'm fucking lazy when it comes to my training. Absolutely lazy, man. Like I put in a shitload of work at the beginning, make sure that they have all the commands that I want them to know really well, right? Like I want them to know their place or bed or whatever I'm going to use as the place. I want to make sure they know not to bolt out the door. I want to make sure that they have a good sit with an implied stay or a down. Doesn't matter to me. Just do something and imply the stay there, right? I want their recall to be, high level and shit like that, right? After that, I don't do shit. I just let my dogs run amok and be dogs because I have all of my things in place to where my dogs are obedient for the situations that they're going to be in, right? They're safe. They're not causing mayhem. They're not behaviorally fucking ridiculous. They're neutral in all different environments and so on, right? So after that, I don't really do much. And then once they start lapsing into ignoring different commands or blowing things off or starting to, like, for instance, recall, like, they might just kind of halfway blow it off, but then decide, okay, I'll recall and stuff. It's like, no, that's not good enough. We're going to go back and we're going to work on a little bit more training for the next couple of days. Really reinforce everything, right? Reinitiate everything, punish the things we want to reduce and so on. Do the training for a couple of days and then they're good for some more months. So I don't have to do shit. I can be lazy and just hang out with my dogs. But I think the more important part of that is knowing your dogs well enough to know the moment when you should start doing the training again, right? Because I could easily screw this all up by ignoring the signs that I need to start doing the training, and then they completely extinct all the behaviors that I've created, and then I have to do a shitload of work to reestablish everything. I wouldn't want to do that. So, like for instance, the e-collar training with Gojo, the recall training, the reinforcement training as well with it. It was simply because the other day I went to recall him, and
you stay.
Instead of immediately recalling, what he decided to do was he kind of looked at me, went down to sniff, and then I was like, Gojo, come. And he's like, okay, I'll come. Right? It's like, no. When I say come, you come. Like, you don't get to look at me and go sniff again. Right? And so that was the one time he blew me off, and I'm like, all right, well, looks like we're doing this.
No, when Natalia does that, I just give her a shock. I don't give her a second chance, because that's like a blatant ignoring.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. Huh? So yeah. Yeah. But how old is Natalia?
Huh?
How old is Natalia?
She's like 2.
Okay. Wait, she's like 2 now?
Yeah, she's 2.
How long have I known you? Holy crap, because I remember you talking about getting Natalia.
I'm trying to remember. Because wait a minute, getting her. Because I only had. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't have a.
No, you didn't have.
No, because I had to leave.
Yeah, you didn't have Natalia yet. And you were talking about getting a corgi, and I remember making a lot of jokes about it. And then I remember talking about how my wife really wants a corgi.
Right. Okay. Yes, you're right.
So, man, we've known each other for a while now, huh? There's no way Natalia is almost 2. No way.
She is.
Holy
November.
Crap. That means you probably got to see videos of Nezzy when she was still somewhat a puppy.
I think so.
That's wild. Wild.
Dude, I didn't think it'd been that long, to be honest with you.
Oh my god, did you hear that little bark?
Yes, I did.
That was the Jack Russell. And the reason why it sounded so muffled is because he has a big ass toy in his mouth.
I love that. I love that so much.
So right here, it ended up changing back to my Bluetooth audio, so Olivia cuts out again. So bear with that. I'll make sure that it is edited to where you can understand it as best as possible. But we did segue into a completely different topic, and you'll get it. You'll catch on real quick. Enjoy.
I guess my humor can be so fucking dry sometimes that some people don't know that I'm joking. Like, there's people out there that truly think that I train my daughter like I compulsion train dogs. Like, that truly believe it because I made, like, 2 jokes at different occasions about it. He puts e-collars on puppies. You know, it's like, no, I actually don't put e-collars on puppies because the puppies I work with don't need e-collars because I train them properly, right? I put e-collars on adult dogs, but my personal opinion is there is no age limit on e-collars once your dog is able to start making their own decisions that can be dangerous. And the thing is, your dog tends to be a little bit older when they're making these decisions to be dangerous, right? I'm not talking about a fucking, 2, 3, 4-week-old puppy. Hell no. And I'm also not talking about how I apply it. Like, if I put an e-collar on a 6-week-old dog, right? Am I shocking the dog at 99, or am I using a vibrate? Am I using just the sound because the sound is scary? What am I doing? What am I doing? Nobody ever asked that question. They just automatically assume I'm just zapping the fuck out of a puppy. Like, like what? No. If you want to know my real opinion on what age should you put an e-collar on a dog, right? If you want to know my true opinion, because not a single person ever asked me, what is your true opinion? Because they just ask me, like, the general stuff, right? Like, is there an age limit for putting e-collars on dogs? Like, no. No, there's not, right? Like, I'll just be general, right? But nobody has once asked me, when do you truly think it's appropriate to put an e-collar on a dog? Like, what age, right? 5 months. 5 months. That's the age. 5 months. I mean, like, and it's just straight up 5 months. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no issues. There's no, but what if? Nope, 5 months. What if my dog's not doing anything wrong? 5 months. What if my dog's reacted? 5 months. What if my dog isn't happy on 5 months? What about a great day in 5 months? It's all fucking 5 months. Straight up. 5 months. Every dog. That's my opinion. 5 months, every dog. Why 5 months, every single dog? Right? Obviously, we understand how I like to use e-collars. I've said it plenty of times on the podcast, off the podcast, lives, and so on, right? I use my e-collars particularly for decreasing behaviors, punishments, right? Or negative reinforcements to increase the behaviors by them learning to get rid of pressure. But the thing is, you can also pair the e-collar sounds up with, like, a reward marker. You can use a very low-level stim to teach engagement from a distance and so on, right? There's a lot of applications, right? Does every single dog out there need punishment? No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Then why would I put an e-collar on a dog that is 5 months old that doesn't need punishment? Because what if there's a moment where the dog decides to do something that's dangerous and I need to right then and there make sure the dog doesn't do it? And at 5 months old, every single dog in existence is old enough, agile enough, fast enough, mobile enough. I mean, not every dog in existence. There's gonna be outliers like dogs with no legs and shit, right? But but every able-bodied dog out there are all of those things to be able to do things that are not appropriate, that are not going to be safe, right? Why risk it? Why risk it for the biscuit? And I even, like, small dogs mature at a faster rate, so they're even going to be more so able to do the shit than large breed dogs, right? But even large breed dogs, like, again, if you can teach a dog to sit with a treat, that means the dog has the learning capability to create associations between getting the reward and doing the behavior, the pattern, right? That means that dog is also intelligent enough and cognitive enough to learn to avoid doing certain behaviors based off of outcomes it did not like an aversive. 5 months, period. Like that's if you really want to, if I had to say an age limit, right? What about before 5 months? Nope. Why not? Because 5 months. Just straight up 5 months. 5 months. Well, okay. A 4-week-old puppy, not at all. There is no reason why you can't use a leash to control your puppy. And if you can't control a 4-week-old puppy of any type of breed of dog, doesn't matter what it is, then you should not be having dogs. Alright? A 8-week-old puppy, let's say a 2-month-old puppy, right? You should more so be focused on your bonding with the dog, play, and exposure than anything else with that dog, period, point blank, and that dog should still be on a leash at all times. Even when you're outside, even if you have a fenced-in yard, leash at all times, and you should be starting to get closer to longer lines at that point, but you should still be able to control that dog, right? So that's a 2-month-old dog. At 3 months old, at 3 months old, the same applies to the 2-month-old dog. The exact same applies, right? When it comes to 4 months old, right? Now we're giving the dog a little bit of extra freedoms and things like that, right? We are giving the dogs freedoms. but we are still being very hands-on when it comes to all of their behaviors. We're keeping our very close eye on everything. We're outside with the dog at all times. They don't have as much freedom, as like full off-leash type shit, right? They're not just running around the yard doing whatever the fuck they want. Or they shouldn't be. You should be out there because they are still going to be eating shit. They're still going to be just doing things, right? But they're still puppies, and at that point, you're already working on a lot of basic commands. You're starting to do that, so you're starting to build the drive for food and other things, right? You're starting to get through all of that stuff. So you should be working on more so engagement and motivating that dog to do the other commands and stuff. So whenever you're outside with your dog, what you should be doing as a responsible pet owner with a 4-month-old dog is you should be working on training. And if you're not working on training, that dog should, if you're not going potty, you're not feeding, if you're not going to feed outside a crate, so if you're not going potty, you're not feeding, you're not exercising, and you're not training, that dog should be in the crate at all times. Now, at 5 months old, right? At 5 months old is the time when we are more likely to be giving a shitload more freedoms to our dogs. Our dogs at that point understand a lot of basic commands. That dog at that point should understand its name and know what its name is. That dog at that point should know some recall. That dog at that point should have a very solid potty schedule so you're not worried about a lot of messes inside the house and so on, right? That dog should have all of these things already, under its belt. So now we can give it a hell of a lot more freedoms. And now with freedoms also means we have to do a hell of a lot more management for a puppy. What better way to manage the dog than having an e-collar? So that's where my logic comes in when it comes to raising a puppy. And that's why it's at 5 months, and that's why it's not before 5 months, and that's why it's not after 5 months. That's why it is always 5 months. Always.
So I think this is a good stopping place. So I'm going to close it out here.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah.
As per usual, you are amazing, and I'm sorry I had to spam you about that, but
No, you're good. You're good. I get it. It was intense. It was a new thing, and it can be scary. Like, oh my God, is this something I have to worry about? It's like not necessarily, right? Again, I don't know a single person out here that truthfully will say that their adult dog, and I'm going to specifically say that, adult dog, because, puppies are puppies, yada, yada. If somebody has had a dog for a couple weeks, of course they can say, oh, my dog's never tried to bite me, right? But, like, anybody with a full adult dog at some point has had some resource that they decided was high level enough to where they snapped at their owner for a split second, right? It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. It happens. It has happened to me with both of my dogs, right? Thank you so much, Olivia, for having this long conversation. It's been great. A lot of good, useful information out there. And this is actually one of the few times I actually just, instead of talking like it's a podcast, I just talked and we had a good conversation. That's nice. It's great. But I'll talk to you probably tomorrow. But anybody listening in, thank you for listening. And I will see you on the next episode.
All right. Good night, Patrick.
Good night, Olivia.